Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the show. This is Oakshead Magic Jordan speaking, and um, as you can tell, we don't have a video properly. Well, a video properly. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of a camera issue. Anyway, I decided to carry on, and after some recent comments from some some of the subscribers from YouTube, I've decided to do a few more deck takes, and some of them have said they'd like to hear some modern ones that I do run and I do play. And obviously I will go into doing some more standard ones and various other things in future as well. So, to begin with, we are going to do my mono red goblin list, or as I call it, let's go goblins, let's go. This is a bit of a, it's not the world's most cheapest budget modern deck, but this is certainly a fun one to play because, let's be honest, if you win with goblins, you feel ecstatic. And if you lose to goblins, you don't mind, because I've learned several things in this world, and people do not mind losing to goblins and dragons, because dragons are big and awful and awesome, and goblins are small, weak, and if you win with goblins, dear lord, you must be a good player. Anyway, so to begin with, I'll go through the creatures, and then we'll go through the spells, and then we'll go through the sideboard after that. So, to begin with, we have in the 1-drop slots, we have 4 Goblin Bushwhackers. These are pretty much a standard in any mono red list, let alone any goblin list. Bushwhacker itself is a 1-mana drop. It's a 1/1, but if you kick it for 1 extra red, it enters the battle. If it was kicked, it enters and gives you all your creatures +1/+0 and gives them haste. So this is a very good haste enabler. It is fantastic. You can sort of dump your hand a little bit, as I'll go into, and this can sort of swing through and cause a lot of damage. In my opinion, it's better than the Reckless Bushwhacker, because the Reckless Bushwhacker has the clause that you've got to surge it out. But definitely Goblin Bushwhacker is definitely a must-keep in this list, but it's fantastic. The next play set of Goblins that I have is possibly the most expensive kind. This is Goblin Guide. Now, this is a bit of a good one to have in the list. It's obviously a 1-mana 2/2 with the, obviously gives your opponent card draw-ish, but it does have haste, it does get out there, and to be honest, I've actually had opponents have to discard for overdraw once you get quite a few of these on the block, which is rather entertaining when they sort of reveal land, put a hand, reveal land, put a hand, reveal land, it's rather funny. It is good to play with. It is obviously probably one of the most expensive cards in the deck, and having to play 7 is not cheap, I'll be honest. But in saying that, you can run some other smaller goblins, like Foundry Street Denizen is a good one, because he can pump up and cause damage. Or there's also Mogcatcher as well and stuff like that. There's a few other ones that you can use. The last 1-drop that I run is a one-off. Now, there are people who have argued with me that I should be running more of them, and I sort of do debate it, but it means cutting things from the list that also work. But anyway, it's Legion Loyalist. It's a 1-mana haste. The battalion trigger, once it attacks with at least 2 other creatures and itself, basically all your creatures gain first strike and trample. Now, these are obviously all goblins. They're a bit small and weedy, but we do have lords. Do not worry, we do have lords in here that can pump them up. So they are rather useful. So that's all our 1-drop slots. In the 2-drops where we start to get some interest. Firstly, we have 3 off of Mog War Marshal. Now, this is the goblin who enters the battlefield with a buddy, but not only that, it comes with an echo cost. But obviously, if you don't pay it, or if he dies, so a perfect blocker, you get another goblin out of the deal. So he comes with a buddy, and once he's off the field, he leaves the buddy behind, which is rather sweet. So we run 3 off of them. The next goblin is Warren Instigator. Now, this is a Zendikar Mythic. Again, not exactly cheap, but to be fair, you can find these in good deals, actually. I got mine at my local at GP London. I never was running them, and then I found them at GP London, and by God, I got a good deal on them. So, Warren Instigator is 2 red. He's a Goblin Berserker with is a 1/1 with double strike. However, if he deals combat damage to an opponent, you may put a Goblin creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Now, This obviously helps get your lords out, because obviously first strike damage occurs. You can then put a lord out and then pump him up for more damage, which is also great. We run a full play set of them. Definitely worth and definitely a good time to run them. The last two cards of the 2-drop slot we have is Goblin Pile Driver. Now, it is a 1 and a red. It's a 1/2. It has protection from blue. So, once it's on the field, blue can't deal with it a lot of the time. But whenever it attacks, it gets +2/+4 until the end of turn for each other attacking goblin. So if you've got this thing out in Legion Loyalist and you're swinging for a big swing, by God, it can do some trample damage. It is fantastic. So that is basically all our 2-drop slots. Now we move into the realms of the 3-drop, or as I call it, the Lord slot. So to begin with, we'll do our first Lord, which is we run a 3-off of Goblin King. So he's 1 and 2 red. He gives all other goblins +1/+1 and Mountain Walk. Now that is quite, it is relevant, especially for the sideboard where we have some very fun options to put into play. Definitely the 1/1. It's only on other goblins, so it's a bit of a downside. However, once you've got more than one of them out on the field, it does actually negate it quite well, and they start pumping each other up. The next one we have is Goblin Chieftain, and we run a full play set of Goblin Chieftain. He gives all of the goblins +1/+1 and haste. He also has haste himself, and he's 1 and 2 red again, and for a 2/2 again. So again, the reason why I run a full play set of him and not the king is that he gives all the goblins haste, and that can be rather crucial actually for early damage, which is what this deck wants to do. You want to be piling on the pressure sort of turn 1, 2, and 3. The next one, we run 2-off of Goblin Rabblemaster. Now, he's 2 and a red. He has the clause that other goblin creatures you control attack each turn if able. So some turns you may have to plan it out. But at the beginning of your combat, on your turn, you put 1/1 red goblin creature token with haste onto the battlefield. So obviously it's tapped and attacking. And whenever he attacks, he gets +1/+0 until the end of turn for each other attacking goblin. So it's like a mini version of the pile driver. So it again can come in handy for a big swing. So obviously we run 2 off of that, and he's a 2/2. Now this is the next card, which some people have slated me for using. However, some opponents have gone, oh my god, and have realised how powerful this thing is, which is what I find funny. The last off card is 1 and 2 red, Sensation Gorger. Now, he's a 2/2, and all he has is kinship. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it shares a creature type with Sensation Gorger, so if it's a goblin or a shaman, you may reveal it. If you do, each player discards his or her hand and then draws 4 cards. So this is the upkeep step, and then on the draw step, you get to draw another card. So this is actually hilarious against control decks. If they let this live on the board for 1 turn, they can lose a lot of things. Obviously, they're going into card draw, but a lot of the time they've got to dump their hand or they've got to do things, and it gets rather interesting. Last FNM I was playing this against a black-white tokens deck, and yeah, he didn't know how to deal with this. Especially, we got about through 5 turns of just dumping our hands, because I kept drawing into lots of land which I did not need. So I was happy to sack my hand, whereas he was not happy, and he was not drawing any answers, which was rather good. Right, in the 4-drop slot, we only run 2 off of Krenko Mob Boss. He's a 2 and 2 red. He's a legendary creature, Goblin Warrior. He's a 3/3, but you can tap him and put X 1/1 red goblin creatures into the tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the number of goblins you currently control. This thing can get out of hand very quickly. If Krenko is on the board for a couple of turns, you can generate that many goblins and start swinging. It doesn't matter if they die, if they live. It just starts. The pressure starts getting through quite easily. And then if you've got a lord on the board, just pumping them up as well. It's fantastic. Then we go to the 5-drop, and these are the last creatures that we run, which is a 3-off of Siege Gang Commander. So he's 3 and 2 red. When he enters the battlefield, you get 3 1/1 goblins into play, and he has the ability to pay 1 and a red. You sack a goblin, and he'll do 2 damage to target creature or player. The reason why I'm running these in the main board is because these things work so well in the long game. This deck is all about getting early damage and then pinging damage later on. Or you can win turn 4 possibly on this with this deck, but you've got to sort of plan it out ahead of schedule. So now we move to the beautiful spells. Now, in this deck, all we have is we are running 2 Rending Volleys. This is the 1-mana instant that can't be countered by spell and ability and deals 4 damage to target white or blue creature. So, some people say it's not hugely relevant, sort of in the modern meta, but I have found that a lot of players I do go up against do have white or blue creatures. Obviously, this is the first thing that gets sideboarded out if it's just sat in my hand doing nothing. The next set of spells is we run a 4-off of Desperate Ritual. This is for 1 and a red, and you cast it and you get 3 red mana to your mana pool. You can also splice it onto the Arcane, so you can theoretically, I haven't done it yet, but I've been close to a couple of times, where you can cast this. If you have another one in hand, then you may reveal it for 1 and a red, and then you get the spell's effect. So theoretically, you can cast this. If you had enough mana open, you can then reveal it and then get 6 mana out of the deal, which is rather sweet. And the last spell that we run is Goblin Charbelcher, which is a 4-mana artifact. Basically, you pay 3. You've got to first declare your target, whether it's a creature or a player you're targeting. And you reveal cards on the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Now, this artifact will deal damage equal to the number of non-land cards revealed. However, if you reveal a mountain, you deal double the amount of damage. So if you reveal 5 cards and then hit a land, you will do 5 damage. But if you reveal a mountain, you will do 10 damage. And this is the reason why we run mono red. Because basically our land base is 18 mountains. That is it. This is very low creature deck. You do not need much. To be fair, I use a lot of the combo a lot of the time for, turn 2 I'm casting Desperate Ritual to get a Lord out on the board, which then causes lots of problems because suddenly you're hitting with a pumped up Goblin from turn 1. Generally, if you've got Goblin Guide out, suddenly instead of hitting for 2, you're hitting for 3. If you've got the Chieftain out, you're hitting for 5 on damage on turn 2, which is fantastic. So, this moves us along to the sideboard. Now, I am not one for telling people how they should sideboard, because I believe you should look at your local game store or the meta and decide what to do. So this is sort of my sort of general opinions. Basically, I run mainly creature heavy deck, and then I switch out for sort of a bit of a burn package. So to begin with, we have 4 off of Goblin Grenade. This is the 1 mana spell that's better than Lightning Bolt, and it's only better because all you have to do is have a Goblin to sack and deal 5 damage to creature or player. So, love the card. It's fantastic. The amount of times that you've got your opponent down to low health on turn 3, and you peel this off the top of your deck and go bam, swinging second main. I'm sacking whatever goblins have got left, cause damage. So definitely a spell worth running. The next card we run a 1-off Witchbane Orb. Basically, this is providing you a 4-mana artifact that provides you hexproof. It also will destroy any curses attached to you if you do cast it, although I don't see that much relevance in that at the moment. I've not come across a deck that does run curses yet. The next sideboard option we have is 2 Dragon's Claws. Now, these are basically for the red mirror match. A lot at the moment, Screg Red is cutting loose across Modern, and this does cause a lot of problems with it. In fact, you can gain quite a lot of life off it, especially from Screg Red as well as yourself, and you just get life after life after life, which is fantastic. The next sideboard is Anger of the Gods. We run a 2-off. This is obviously a board sweeper. This is for going up against another sort of rush deck where you want to try and control the board turn 3, because obviously it exiles the cards. It's also great against Dredge and any sort of recursion deck from the graveyard, because they tend to have low toughness, so it's a good way of getting them exiled. We run, for our artifact hit, we run a 1-off of Smash to Smithereens, which obviously when you destroy target artifact you deal 3 damage to its controller, and we run 1 Vandal Blast. At the moment I'm debating about getting rid of the Smash, putting in another Vandal Blast. I'm toying between the two. But the Vandal Blast, it's a one mana spell where you can destroy target artifact you don't control, or you can overload it for 4 and a red, and you destroy all artifacts you don't control, which is rather sweet. We then have a bit of graveyard hate, which I like, which is 1-off of Tormod's Crypt. Obviously, it's just a 0-mana artifact. Comes onto the board. You can tap it, sack it, and remove all cards in target player's graveyard from the game. So yeah, so very good. And we also have a Grafdigger's Cage, which is a 1-mana artifact. Creature cards can't enter the battlefield from graveyards or libraries, and players can't cast cards in graveyards or libraries. At my meta, there are a few people who do run search your library for horrible creature and put it onto the board. That's the reason why I'm running this over like a relic or another Tormod's. The last 2 cards in the sideboard we run is Blood Moon. Again, a bit of another pricey card, but this can shut down entire decks. It really can. It is so good. Obviously, it's the 2 and a red enchantment, which basically makes all non-basic lands and mountains. Again, this has great synergy with the Goblin King in the main board. So it's one of those cards that works very well. There are arguments where people don't like it, and I know it because I've voted against it. And boy, when I'm playing one of my other modern decks and they play it, it's like, that's the reason why I like to run a few basics of each land and sort of able to search them out as quick as I can. But anyway, so that is it for our first modern deck tech for the channel. I'd like to let me know what you think of it. This is a good fun deck. I enjoy playing it. I've built this deck over the last year. I had an original version which was running Quest for the Goblin Lord, which was hilarious when you got that thing going. But yeah, it's a good fun deck to play, and highly recommend it for sort of entry level modern play. Obviously, there are probably ways of getting around the expense of this deck and playing it with a bit more of the budget side. If you'd like me to sort of give you sort of a budget version of the deck, let me know, and I'll happily do a video for it. So anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in, and yeah, catch you on the flip side. Like the video; it helps out a lot apparently now with the new YouTube system. And yeah, if you're not subbed to the channel already yet, guys, please sub. And yeah, catch you guys later. Bye.